Every single flight. I'm like, this is it. I look around everybody. I'm like, these are the people I'm dying with? This fucking guy. It's about Christmas time right now. And there's pretty much just one Thanksgiving movie ever made, which is...
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
So instead of Thanksgiving with his family, he's spending 3 days with the turkey. Steve Martin.
Ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
You see Don Ho while you were there?
See the second show, that's the best one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
John Candy.
Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
In a new film by John Hughes. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
See that Bears game last week?
Yeah, hell of a game, hell of a game.
Before the Thanksgiving movie part, I want to say you and I, especially you, talk about Chicago movies a lot. Mm-hmm. And we kind of had a definitive... I think a one episode, we made like a definitive list of all the best ones, where we just kind of rattled off a bunch. And my position was always like Blues Brothers is the best Chicago movie, it's most Chicago-y. But there's a bunch of good ones. And then you kind of stretch the definition of what a Chicago movie is a little bit farther than most, I would say. But I have never heard you call this one a Chicago movie when it is almost definitely a Chicago movie.
Oh, it's 100% a Chicago movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, sometimes you forget the obvious,
Right.
but this is definitely a Chicago movie.
Because the destination is Chicago. It's like a pilgrimage to Chicago. It's a good homage.
Even though technically it's like Wilmette,
Yeah,
but
whatever.
like it's Chicago.
Well, in that case, then, do you include Chicago suburban movies as Chicago movies?
What, like Breakfast Club?
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what I was thinking.
in a loose definition, I think you include Ferris Bueller for sure because
Well, a lot
it's
of it
actually
is.
in Chicago.
Yeah.
It all depends on if there's an element of actually being in Chicago or tied to Chicago for it to be the Chicago movie. But this is definitely a Chicago movie. I mean, you see, spoiler alert for the end, they're riding the L.
Yep.
And even though technically it's supposed to be like the commuter train or whatever, it's
Right.
clearly the L, and you know that it's the L. And they're trying to get to Chicago. I still qualify this as a Chicago movie, 100%.
Yeah, because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, this is a tangent that you making a comment about the L made me think of this. I never thought of, even though it's very much in Chicago, Risky Business as a Chicago movie.
Yeah,
It is a
it's
Chicago movie.
it is a Chicago movie, and again, sometimes the directors play a little fast and loose with it's technically like Wilmette, or it's technically Glenview, or it's technically whatever, Shermer, Illinois, but it's Chicago.
Yeah.
And Risky Business, you don't think
You never figured out how to think!
you don't think of it as a Chicago movie, even though it's set in Chicago, but you think of it as like almost New York.
Yeah, but
Like you think of it as a New York
they
movie.
go downtown
Yeah.
in several parts of the movie.
Oh, for sure.
It's also funny because like people outside of this area would never know that Wilmette's like one of the wealthiest zip codes in the
Yeah.
country, and it's
Yeah.
like all these everyday Joe family, like Steve Martin is just like in every guy family man. It's like no, he lives in like one of the wealthiest.
Well, like Home Alone too,
Yeah.
right? Like it's filmed in Wilmette, even though it's filmed in Chicago, quote unquote, right? Because Joe Pesci is wearing a Chicago police uniform, but it was that house is in Wilmette, and of course the question about that is what does Kevin's dad do that he's taking 9 people to Paris,
Yeah.
for Christmas, where like the rates at hotels and flights and everything are like exorbitant. Like, what does this guy do?
Yeah,
right?
not just your 9 kids, but like your little shit kids. Like I would never
Mm-hmm.
take my young children to Paris on Christmas.
And like the cousins and like
Yeah.
everybody is in on it.
It's also like I said, the Thanksgiving movie.
Well, I do
Christmas,
wanna-
you, like pick your movie.
I mean, I do want to ask about that, right? Because there are a couple of Thanksgiving movies, right? I mean, this is obviously the pinnacle of all Thanksgiving movies, but Is Jack and Jill not a Thanksgiving movie?
I can't stand you being here.
Sure. Actually, I could start that tradition.
Right?
I do enjoy that movie.
And to a better extent, one of my favorite Thanksgiving movies is Thanksgiving.
I have not seen
Have
that.
you never seen Thanksgiving?
No.
It is quite a piece of cinematic gold. You know, you've got pieces of gold from that movie, like Gobble Gobble Motherfucker.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker. Now that's what I call foul play.
You have a turkey that's trying to kill human
Is
beings.
this an 80s movie?
No, this is a 2000s movie, I'm pretty
not
sure.
familiar with this at all.
Yeah, so
It's like a Sharknado level.
it's like on the same thing. So some friends of mine and we used to have bad movie night, where we would just we would get a bad movie, we would watch, and we would drink and watch and whatever. So Birdemic is another one that we watched. Thanksgiving, of course, like The Room.
Wait, what is Birdemic?
It is exactly as bad as you'd think it is. The graphics are on the same level as like the Sharknado graphics. It's basically this group of friends, and like all of the birds just start attacking and killing humans.
Like Hitchcock's birds.
Kind of, but
bad.
this is. I mean, I don't want to spoil it. You should definitely watch it. That's But yeah, like so we would watch these movies. Like one of my buddies on one of the movies, I can't remember if it was. I think it was Birdemic. He just got a bottle of $2 Chuck and was just drinking the bottle of $2 Chuck straight out of the bottle. Thanksgiving, we actually watched on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Blackout Wednesday.
Blackout Wednesday. We went to I don't know if it still exists. I don't remember what it was called, but it was a bar where it was like one of the first ones where like you had the beer and you got the beer at the table, like where you put your beer cup on the thing and
It was one of the first bars where you got the beer and you put it on. No,
no, where like you put it and like it would fill up. You know what I'm saying? Like it had the bottom where like the bottom of the cup was specially made so that it like attached into like a spigot and like the beer filled from the bottom up.
I don't know what this is. No.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't think they're a thing anymore, but
apparently
like,
not. No.
But then we were like, oh, we should go try this out. Like that seems like a kitschy thing. Like after work, like let's just go do this. This is before kids or anything like that. So we had done that, and we were like, okay, we're sufficiently sauced. Let's go watch a movie. Let's go watch Thanksgiving, and we watched Thanksgiving because why not, right? I mean,
I might have to do that because the only things to watch are planes, trains, automobiles. It's going to be on every cable, like TBS, TNT, whatever, USA. I think those are basically the same channel.
They're all owned by the
Bravo.
same, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be on all the time, and then Charlie Brown. Thanksgiving,
Charlie Brown Thanksgiving,
something you can
yeah.
watch, and then the Detroit Lions.
That's true. Yes.
Those are the three things you can watch on Thanksgiving.
The Macy's Thanksgiving Parade.
Which I never understood why people watch that.
I mean,
watching
you
a
get to,
parade on TV is the weirdest fucking thing. Watching a parade, period, is weird as hell. Like going to a parade and watching like a big inflatable Snoopy like go down. That's weird enough to go in person, but to watch it on TV is just like the.
As an adult, I will agree with that 100%. But for kids, they enjoy it. Especially like my kids enjoy it because they got marching bands and then they've got like
They enjoy watching on TV.
Yeah, so like on Thanksgiving morning, we'll turn on the parade. Like I'll turn on the parade and they'll watch it. Now probably this year they probably won't because they're kind of aging out of that where they don't really care for that type of stuff. But like being able to see the marching bands, being able to see the balloons and things like that, like it's enjoyable for them, or was enjoyable for them at least.
I mean, I guess I can get it for a little kid. I never really understood. I don't even like understand parades that much like that, where it's like you have Woody Woodpecker and then Grimace from McDonald's and like a giant inflatable thing, and then there's like a marching band, and then like a little league baseball team, and then some guy running for comptroller, and they're all throwing like bubble yum at people. Like the whole concept is weird to me, and then watching it on ABC7, like getting up in the morning and flipping it on is
La-di-da, ABC7. We're stuck watching it on WGN.
Whatever.
Over here.
I don't
We're
know. I didn't know it was-
working class Joes over here.
I didn't know it was on more than one channel. It's like the Tonight Show in the 60s.
Yeah, but it's you know, you do kind of watch it for the hopes that occasionally there's like high winds and somebody gets, because those balloons are like, they're intense, and they have the people holding them, and like there's been occasions where people have been like kind of like pulled up into the air, and like you hope for something like that. You hope for, I mean, you don't hope somebody gets hurt. I mean, just to clarify, not somebody getting hurt, but definitely watching something crazy like that happen. Like, would you not want to see a giant Snoopy just riding on the wind over Central Park, like just floating? There goes Snoopy floating over fucking Central Park.
Because it's so boring, and you get up in the morning to watch the Donald Duck like inflatable going on. You're like, this fucking sucks. Can somebody get hurt, please?
Yeah,
That
or
shows
like
how
one
bad it is
person
to watch a
holding onto
parade.
one of the ropes, like as this Snoopy is flying over Central Park. I would love to see that. That would be.
I would watch that. Then.
That would be great to see. I would, yeah.
So your Thanksgiving tradition is that, and then what was it? Turducken murder? What is it?
Turducken murder.
Turducken murder, yes. Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving,
yes.
That's better.
I actually, I mean, I've only seen Thanksgiving once. I have not actually. It's not something that we've watched repeatedly.
And then Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
And Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, which we do watch repeatedly.
And I that's the only time of the year probably I'll watch it too.
You know, the funny thing is that I think probably some people get confused by the ending of the movie where there's snow and associate it with Christmas.
Definitely.
But it's clearly a Thanksgiving
Yeah,
movie.
I was gonna say it does double. I feel like people watch it during Christmas time too.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is all kind of one season anyway.
It's because of the storyline, right? Like that somebody is trying to desperately get home for the holidays and disaster strikes, because it always does, right? Whether it's weather or, you know, just overwhelming people at the airport or something like that. Like there's always a reason why something gets delayed or gets pushed back. And I think this is kind of one of those fears in people's heads.
Yeah.
Like what's going to happen if we get left behind, like, and we can't be home for Christmas, or we can't be by our parents or by our family for Christmas.
Yeah, it's perfect because of that, because it's like kind of relatable and thing. But shower curtain ring salesman is the funniest job imaginable.
Yeah.
Like I was writing something, and I asked you recently what was funnier. I can't remember what we decided on. We did like the caps of
I thought we were
shoelaces.
Yeah, the shoelace.
What are they called again?
Those are not grommets. Those are called. Oh, I can't remember what those are called now.
Iglet.
Maybe that. Yeah, maybe that was what that was. It. Yeah.
Or Q-tip salesman and manufacturer. Like shower curtain ring is the funniest possible profession.
Well, it was the 80s, so it was the wild, wild west. Everybody, you could sell anything, you know?
Right. I don't know. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Wasn't there.
But you know, the funny thing about this movie is that kind of twofold, right? Like, this movie was based on John Hughes' life. Like, this is a classic John Hughes movie to begin with. But it's also based on John Hughes' life, because he was literally trying to get home to Chicago from New York and had to go through Wichita to get home, and it took him 5 total days.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is based on that. But at the same time, if they would have just stayed in New York, or stayed in Wichita, excuse me, like, they could have gotten home a lot quicker.
Oh yeah, that's got to be like a 10-hour drive. I don't know.
Well, first off, the
long
drive is not that long. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that bad of a drive. You do it definitely in a day. But also, when at the end of the movie, there's the news report that says that like O'Hare's back operational, everything is like
Just
back
wait
to
it
working.
out,
Like,
yeah.
just wait it out. Like, then you wouldn't have to worry about all of this.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, when they're trying to get from St. Louis to Chicago, which is a 4.5-hour drive, is not a bad drive at all.
No.
It takes them forever. And furthermore, the Braidwood Inn, which is off of 55, just south of Chicago, which is actually the Sun Motel. You can see it, like, when you're driving down 55. You can see it on the east side of the highway. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Chicago, maybe. Like, I understand when you get tired, right? That, like, you're like, okay, I'm tired. We got to, like, pack it in for the night or whatever. You're also, like, 2 hours away. Maybe, like, pull off the side of the road, catch a little cat nap, right?
In the car.
In the car, and then just, like, power through.
Also, to the point about waiting it out at the airport, what's the What's the longest you've ever been delayed / had a flight canceled? I feel like it's never more than one day. I mean, it's happened. Like it happened during the holidays last year, I think. In New York.
Yeah, for me, I've been pretty lucky. When a flight has been canceled, I've been able to get on to some other flight. The only time it happened was Anne and I were in France, and we were trying to come home, and they canceled our flight but didn't email us or call us or anything. Like, they just didn't tell us. And so we get to the airport, they're like, oh yeah, this flight's canceled. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and this was not a long time ago. This was probably about 10 years ago at this point. We were able to get onto another flight that got us back into the States. We had to fly to Philadelphia and then Philadelphia to Chicago.
That's
but
not
like,
bad.
it was not the end of the world.
The only time I had it was out of Denver, which is one of my least favorite airports.
Do you not like the Demon Horse? Is that not?
The whole thing? It's always under construction. There's like ghosts and UFOs. The whole thing.
I mean, it is confirmed to be the home of the Illuminati.
Yeah, no, it
right?
is.
Like
100% is.
every element of it, it's Illuminati's home base.
And this experience probably helped color my disdain for that airport, and then eventually I translated to the city. Like I just kept intensifying my hate for being there. I had like 11 a.m. flight, delayed an hour, delayed. It keeps getting delayed with pushback an hour. I was with a mutual friend of ours, Eric Cohn. Shout out if you're watching this particular clip. We drank at every bar, probably in the Denver airport, on our then company's credit card, and we were delayed. It gets to midnight, and the flight's canceled. We were drinking for like 12 hours in the airport, and then the flight was canceled, and we had to find a hotel near the airport, and then we flew out the next day.
Yikes!
In a snowstorm.
Wow.
That's the only time it's ever happened to me. But then, to the point, though, I think the weather was awful, and it was only one day.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure that probably like with the big blizzards that we've had in Chicago or in New York, right? Like, it may be a day or two, but like at the same time, so you know what's going to happen. Like, you can try and get to a hotel that's right outside of the airport if there's room, or just like hunker down and just, grin and bear it type of thing. But
Yeah.
it's different if you have kids, of course. I'm not about to do that with kids now. Like, if I'm traveling with the kids and they're like, okay, you're canceled, I'm not going to stay in the airport. I'm going to like find a cab and get
Are you
someplace.
not going to drink all day in the airport with your kids?
No, probably not.
The other airport thing I just thought of, actually, is I was just at the Wichita airport.
Oh, yeah?
Weeks ago. Yeah. It was amazing. Because, like, you go to O'Hare, and it's, like, loud, and people are pissed off. Something about traveling and across the country made me realize how I always thought that every TSA employee was an asshole.
Yeah.
Because of O'Hare, they're always pissed off. That's not the case.
No.
Those guys are just way overwhelmed. And like, there's too much going on, and that's why they're assholes.
Yeah.
You go to any small airport, they're like the nicest people imaginable because they don't have like it's not a real job. Like, you just watch the thing go through the conveyor belt. I always have like full-size shampoo in my bag. They don't do anything about it. They're just kind of like sitting there, and they're as nice as can be. Wichita Airport, not only was it quiet for an airport, you could hear a pin drop in the whole thing. It was in the library. It was amazing.
I believe it. I mean, we so over spring break took the kids out to California to go see the Mickey Mouse and his house out there. And we flew into John Wayne, and first off, I guess like they shut down operations at like 10 o'clock, so that no flights come in or no flights can come in. Like, they have to divert them or something. Like, they can't start before a certain time and they can't end like after a certain time. But we're like, okay, we're gonna catch a flight. We're going from John Wayne to Arizona. So we're like, okay, well, we gotta like make sure that we can get to the airport in enough time, and so we can get through security and whatever. And like, we roll up. Okay, I'll pull up. How about at the after party? There's nobody. There is nobody anywhere. So like, we're walking through the terminal to get to the TSA, which we had pre-check. So thank goodness we had pre-check, because we really, really needed it. There was not a single person in that line other than us. Like, we walked up, the TSA person wasn't even really sitting there. Like, they were sitting someplace else. They're like, oh, somebody's here. Okay. So, like, walked up. They're like, oh, here. Okay, good job. Thank you. Like, oh, the kids. Oh, and, like, having fun with the kids and everything. We got through, and we're just, like, sitting there. There was maybe a dozen people at this gate waiting to get on this plane. It was quiet. went and got some food. The kids were sitting there causing terror among the 12 people waiting to get on this flight. But, like,
Smaller airports, the best.
it was great.
Sacramento, too, and I had to pull a rental car up to load film gear into the car. And at O'Hare, if you're, like, dropping somebody off, it's, like, fucking hectic.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. So people are yelling at you to keep moving. Mm-hmm. And I have that, like, instilled in me, but I pull up. There's no other cars there. I just put the hazards on, and I just, like, no one's yelling at me.
Yeah.
This is fine. We can take our time.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like, every other airport, well, besides, like, New York and LAX and stuff, like, O'Hare sucks.
Yeah.
And this movie actually makes me think of the panic that I feel there sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand it. I mean, trying to, like, get through... As an aside, let me say, going
this
back
is all
to
an
this...
aside.
I mean, that's true. I think we've talked about this movie for about 30 seconds now at this point. So before going to John Wayne, we were trying to get through the airport here to get out to John Wayne to go see Mickey Mouse.
What the fuck are you saying?
We're just about, my brother's going to take us to the airport. We don't live very far from the airport anyway, so it's not a big deal. We're sitting there and we're waiting, and we're about to get into the car to go to the airport. And I get a text message that says, your flight's been canceled. And I was like, are you kidding me?
You can't keep getting away with this!
I get on the phone immediately, and like I'm trying to talk to United. Like, what am I going to do? Like at this point, where like what flight am I going to get on? What are we going to do? As I'm doing that, they send me another text message that was like, you're automatically booked on this flight. Only the time was like, at this point, we're waiting to get into the car. It's about 11:45 in the morning, and the text message I get goes, you're booked on this flight leaving at 10 a.m. on that day. I'm like, how am I leaving at 10 a.m.? Like, is this a Back to the Future thing? Like, we're going to go back in time to get on this flight? So I'm sitting there, we haven't left yet, and then the lady gets on the phone. Say, like, okay, the flight's going to leave at, like, 1 something. And she's like, okay, how far are you from the airport? I'm like, 15 minutes. She's like, okay, well, you gotta hurry. Like, you gotta get there. Because she's telling me boarding is at, like, 12:45. Now, at this point, it's, like, after 12 o'clock. I'm like, there's no way that we're going to make this. So we book it. We get to the airport. I'm like, I don't have tickets because they didn't update in the app. So I have to get them to print me new boarding passes. So then I'm talking to the guy. I'm like, hey, look, they just changed us on this flight. And they didn't tell us. And now boarding is supposed to happen in like 15 minutes. Can you help us like get through? Now I have TSA pre-check, but he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Here's what you're going to do. You're actually going to go through this line right here, and that's going to get you through quicker. I go, okay, great, fantastic. So I go into the line, and it's the regular fucking TSA line. No. And so I'm talking to the TSA guy. I'm like, can you help us? He's like, well, you can ask the people here. So, like, I had to fucking ask everybody, like, as we're rushing through. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm trying to get my kids to Disney World or to Disneyland. Like, can you please, like, let us get through? And, like, a bunch of people were really, really cool about it. One person was kind of making a joke. He's like, no. I was like, are you serious, dude? He's like, no, I'm not serious. Just go. Just, like, get through. And so, like, we bust through. We get to the front of the line. And, like, they're like, you got to take your shoes off. You got to take the iPad out. You got to do all this shit. Like, shit I haven't done in years because of pre-check.
Your kids might have a bomb or something.
Exactly, because they're, well, they can be little terrorists. That's true. They are, you know, whether they are bringing a bomb onto a plane is a different thing. But, like, we get through, we finally get through. We rush. We get, like, of course our gate is C2. So it's at the very end of the C terminal. So we have to go down underneath. We're running. We're sprinting. It's just like Home Alone.
That's what I was just thinking of.
We're sprinting. We're getting through. We go all the way around. We get to the gate. And they're like, "Oh, we should be boarding in about 45 minutes now at this point." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Do you think I'm kidding?
Is it delayed?
So what happened was the flight was actually supposed to leave at 10 o'clock. It got delayed because they had to change equipment. And then it got delayed further because the flight attendants and the pilots, they like timed out. So like, you know, they have to have a certain amount of time before they have to take a break, and they timed out. And so they're like, okay, we got to get a new crew. So they had to like call a whole new crew in from someplace in Chicago that they had to come and.
I had that once where a pilot timed out, so the plane was there and the pilot was there, but he was timed out. It's like we have to get a new pilot. So we just waited, and like the pilot's coming in. I think I was in Philadelphia. Like he's coming in from Miami. He'll be here in like 30 minutes. And I have like a little bit of irrational anxiety about flying, which is super dumb because I fly a lot.
Yeah.
But every plane, I think I'm gonna this is the end of my life. Every single flight, I'm like, this is it. I look around everybody. I'm like, these are the people I'm dying with. This fucking guy. Like I honestly go through this every single flight. But in that moment, I'm like, flying a plane must be so easy. If some guy on short notice from Miami lands in Philadelphia, like, oh, you're going to Chicago now. I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, totally, like, calm my fears until the next flight.
Anyways, this is a great movie.
It's perfect, actually.
Yeah.
There's not much to say, really.
There's not much to say about it. It's a great movie.
What can I say except...
It's a great movie. It's one of Steve Martin and, well, John Candy, R.I.P., but it was one of their favorite movies. And you can see why. It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. Do you want to go on the score? You want me to go?
Sure. I think it's up there, and I'm gonna say, but I think it's a slightly underappreciated movie.
Oh, I disagree.
I think that people go to other John Candy and Steve Martin movies before they go to this movie, which is a crime in and of itself.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think this is like everyone loves this. I don't know if it's underappreciated.
I just think that it's not. Again, it's not the go-to. You're right, like. Because it's not the go-to, I think it's underappreciated.
Okay.
That said, I'd say 7.4.
I'm gonna go higher. I think it's actually it's the only reason it might be underappreciated is because you only watch it for like a month out of the year.
That's true.
But I think every single person who's seen it loves it. So I'm gonna go like 7.6.
7.6.
Wow.
On the money.
Yeah. It's a
If
good one.
The Price is Right, I would.
You'd
win.
win. You win the showcase. You win everything.